Republicans hate immigrants.
Yes.
My question back to the person was, my significant other lady is an immigrant, and I love her very much. Does that make me a hater of immigrants?
Yeah, I mean, and you introduced a little bit of cognitive dissonance in there. You gave a very short story, and then you asked a question. What's another question that you could ask? That was good, thank you.
Thank
You had a
you.
really good one.
What do you like about Obamacare?
Perfect. What do you like about Obamacare? You, up here?
Yeah, I was going to say about immigration. What immigration policies do you think are the best solution?
Yeah, what immigration policies do you think are the right, you and then you?
On the second one, which social issues are most important to you?
Yeah, what social issues are most important to you? And then they have to come up with it, because when they were leaving a blanket statement, now they actually have to talk about it.
It strikes me most of the questions up there are an attempt to set up a fight. And so one of the best ways to not fight is to sort of verbal jujitsu, where you basically say, like, conservatives don't want gay people to be happy. Wow, have you met conservatives who actually say that?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Because,
that's great.
and the point being,
Yeah.
if you have, I want to know about it,
Yeah.
because I'm going to show you a conservative who doesn't hate gay people.
Exactly, yeah. Who are these conservatives? Wow, do you really know people like that? Who are they? I love that, because, yeah, now they have to say, and again, it's good, and it allows you to set up a chance to say, hey, you know, I believe, you know, whatever you want to believe, it allows you to move in that direction. Persuasion theory, it's like the spectrum of latitude, or the latitude of persuasion. It's very difficult to get somebody to go from all the way over here to all the way over here. Now, for me, that was a 20-year journey. So that I'd say a good part of it done in the first 5 years, but I didn't immediately go from full-on liberal to full-on conservative. So you think about this is a journey in which you may only get a little tiny space in that first conversation, but over time, they are moving in the right direction. That if you get into a fight, they may end up going backward. But yeah, don't get frustrated. It is hard. This is a journey rather than if somebody ever says, I can get you to change somebody's mind in the next 30 seconds, be a little dubious of that snake oil. It takes time.
The question, what do you like about Obamacare? And you're thinking in your mind, okay, I know what they're going to say, and you're ready to jump them. And you've got to stop doing that. You have to listen openly without prejudging what the answer might be. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. It's true. They may say something completely different. And again, that's right. So if somebody says, I'm going to teach you how to persuade someone in 30 seconds, beware of that snake oil. I find that persuasion not only takes time, but it also can take you, you're on that persuasion path with them, and you may end up going somewhere you don't really want to go. Have the humility of spirit to know, sometimes you're not going to have the answers. And somebody may ask a question of you that you don't know the answer, and you may have to say, I'll have to get back with you on that. But the minute that they have turned and asked you a question, they have begun to engage. It's a hopeful sign, but it's also kind of scary because you may not have the answer right away.
If you ask a question and somebody comes back and they actually have a fair point,
They might, yeah.
isn't it okay to say, you know what, I hadn't thought of that. That's a good point, and then have your own question to come back to?
And they are going to love that, because that is going to give you a sense of credibility. That
Okay.
you're not there to be like, I'm here to change your mind. You're there to say, hey, what do you like about Obamacare?
Okay.
Oh, and here, you know what? I understand that. I think trying to get as many people insured as possible is a great idea. My concern is that we could probably do it differently and not have these side effects. But yeah, think of it as a real conversation, because that's where the integrity of the conversation is. You, ma'am, you had a question, and then you first.
Yeah, I was kind of following up on the question, how do you avoid being combative and setting the people up to like really punch them? I was thinking of saying to the Obamacare question, I just have my personal experience with Obamacare. What is yours? And like, I would be very curious in this audience, how many are on Medicare and have no personal experience with Obamacare? And I'm waiting for them to say, well, I have no personal experience. Well, I got dumped. I'm one of those people. So obviously that becomes combative again. But how do you engage and start the conversation, like you said, validate their things, but, move it forward in a non-combative way.
So on the question, I like Obamacare, the clarifying question is, well, what is it that you like about Obamacare? And say the person comes back and says, well, I've got a 24-year-old son, and I'm glad he can actually stay on my policy. Yeah. So the next thing is, that's a valid concern, and you want to validate it. So you say, I don't blame you one bit for that. It's hard enough nowadays for a college grad or a young person to get a job in this job market, never mind one with good health care benefits. I just think that we could have accomplished that very narrow goal without completely upending the entire healthcare system. And I've been in it the last year, and I know cancer patients who have lost their health insurance, their doctors, and their health care, and that's not fair. And if you I think your point of having gotten dumped off of health, that gives you a very real story that when they're ready to hear it, and you say, yeah, I tell you what really concerns me is I got that letter, I lost my health care, and now I have to pay more, and the doctor I was working with for whatever health concern, I can't see him anymore. And I'm just thinking that we could have accomplished the goals that we both have in mind about ensuring more people without hurting people like me. And I think that could be very powerful. You, sir? And
Just a quick comment. I think one of the things that is challenging for conservatives is to convince people that we actually care more about people than principles. The principles are there because they serve people. We actually like people. And so it's all about relationship. I mean, if we are more concerned to convert people to our point of view than we are about them as people, correct?
yeah, we have to value
That is very hard to disguise, because the principles remain abstract unless the principles are serving people whom we actually love, and that's the prior foundation.
Oh, it is, and I think I think being right should not be the motivation. The motivation is, if you know the truth, you want to share it with people because you love people. And sometimes I start off speeches with saying, you know what? I love liberals, don't you? And people are like, oh. The fact is that every one of us has a friend that they love very, very deeply who is on the left. And so it is that love that allows you to go into those conversations with the patience, humility, and integrity that will allow you to embark on that journey without getting angry. But I think your point is very, very valid. You and then you.
Okay, I am on Medicare, and we have secondary insurance, and we're holding our breath until the end of the year to find out if our secondary insurance will be canceled for next year. But in answer to the lady about Medicare, we have 3 doctors who retired because they didn't want to deal with the paperwork of Obamacare. That's a good argument for people who are on Medicare.
Yeah, it's a great argument, but I think once you get into that journey and people then become ready to hear that personal story, it is very powerful to say, I've worked with this doctor for 20 years and they've left because of the paperwork. I wish we could accomplish these broader goals without losing doctors that are important to people. You, sir, and then I want to move on to the next exercise, but we will have time for questions afterward as well.
You talked about listening. There's an aphorism in medicine that if you actively listen to a patient, which conveys interest and compassion, most of them will tell you what they have.
Yeah, I mean, listening, and if you think about being in the other position, I mean, how many of you woke up this morning and thought, you know what, I really hope somebody changes my mind today. I hope somebody, I want somebody to I just want to meet somebody who causes me to reject everything I believe today. That's so awesome. Right, we live in a castle, and the only way we let that drawbridge down is when people are listening, when they're empathetic. It's only then that we become even open to hearing arguments, is when we think, this person's listening, this person's hearing me, this person cares about me, now I'm willing to let down the drawbridge. One of the things that I try to do, is, and Melanie brought it up, is identifying the vulnerable. What are the human costs of progressive policies? And I write for the Denver Post, which isn't as bad as the Aspen Times, right? It's pretty bad as far as being very liberal and having a predominantly liberal readership. But I find that it is very easy to go into a situation where I want to write a very cheeky, flippant column, and I know that that's not going to work. What's going to work is when I identify the vulnerable and build a case for conservative policies.